Hi, my name is Jonas. Last week the channel reached over 10k subscribers, so to all of you who have subscribed, thanks a lot for supporting the channel. In the last few months a lot of change in this studio, so it's time to give you a little tour. From 2003 until 2020 I've been working mostly in the box, but as you can see nowadays there's quite a lot of hardware in the studio. Let's start with what I call the synthesizer tower. On the top we find a Yamaha CS1x. This is the second synth I ever bought. I got it second hand in 1999 and I use it in my early releases. Afterwards I used it for years as a master keyboard until the middle octave started acting up. Then it was set on the side for a long while, until recently, actually last year, I put it back on top of the stack and I already used it again in some new productions. It's maybe not the most classic synth, but it's still useful and for me it holds great sentimental value. Below that there's the Korg M1. I've already used the M1 VSTi version for years in many productions until I got the chance to get a real one for a good price last year. I had to do some work on this one because the tactile switches were completely worn out, but after some soldering it's good to go another 30 years again. I've been using it quite a lot, both to get classic sounds as creating new patches for new tracks. According to me, it's a very nice looking and inspiring classic synth to have in the studio, both to get the classic 90s sounds, but also doing completely new things with it. At the bottom of the tower there's the most recent synth in my studio, the Arturia PolyBrute. As soon as it got announced I was really interested in it and it doesn't disappoint. It's a really great analog polysynth with a lot of modern features and a great sound. I'm going to be using this a lot. I already did a video showing its capabilities not that long ago. These three synths plus the two on the left wing get supported by a Jaspers rack. So on the left side of the rack there's the Korg MS-20. Same story as with the M1, I've been using the virtual version for years already, but I never really got a mini hardware version because I was a bit concerned about the noise people were complaining about and the build quality. But when Korg announced they were going to reissue the full-size version again, especially in these nice colors, I didn't hesitate and I got one and it's being used a lot. Almost every new track I do has this MS-20 in it somewhere, or sometimes multiple times. Really great synth. Below the MS-20 is the Roland TR-8S. Until quite recently I've been mostly using the Roland Cloud TR drum computers or samples or things like the raw pop and sponge, but I wanted a way to jam a little bit more, come up with grooves really quickly, especially in combination with the synthesizers in the tower here, so I got this TR-8S especially for that purpose. It's really intuitive and fast to use, and besides having all the classic Roland sounds, I can also import my own samples, so it's a really convenient thing to work with. The only problem I'm having with it right now is that I cannot really use the USB audio because in Cubase I have to choose between either my RME interface or the Roland interface. It's really stupid, but in Windows you cannot combine them in a proper way. There are some workarounds with ASIO for all, but that just doesn't work properly. The timing is completely messed up that way. So that means I have to use the analog outputs, but then the problem is that I don't have enough inputs anymore on my interface. That's a problem I'm going to solve in the near future, but for now I have to patch around a little bit when I'm using the TR-8S in recordings. On my desk, always within reach, is the synthesizer that triggered the hardware renaissance in my studio, the Yamaha Reface CS. I got it as a birthday present and since then I've used it in every release I did. It may be small, but the keyboard is really nice to play and the sound is one huge sweet spot. Very easy and convenient to program, you have all the parameters right in front of you and it can do a lot more than you would think. So basically a very versatile and inspirational synthesizer to use that really whet my appetite for hardware again. Hiding below that, this small Korg NTS-1. I'm not using it that much actually, but it's still a very nice and capable little synth. You can use custom oscillators, even program your own. It has quite nice effects and actually it's already useful as a standalone effects unit. My studio monitors are actually quite humble Alesis M1 active speakers. They do their job perfectly fine, but they're probably due for an upgrade. Because this is a quite small room and I'm using my Sennheiser HD600 quite a lot, upgrading the monitors is not really a priority. The microphone you're listening to right now is the Roland NT-1. It's a very capable large diaphragm condenser microphone, which mainly gets used for YouTube voice recording. My DAW is Cubase Pro. I'm using a big Asus widescreen monitor and a smaller Samsung monitor to see what I'm doing. Below my desk is my master keyboard, the Arturia Keylab61 Mk2. It has a very nice keypad, the same one as the PolyBrute, and besides that lots of options to control all my other hardware and software. A very capable master keyboard. We pass by the RME remote control, which is not very exciting but very convenient. To arrive at the RME Octamic 2, which is connected via ADAT to my RME AIO to add 8 inputs. The interface itself already has been upgraded to have 6 analog inputs, which brings my total to 14, which is unfortunately not enough anymore, so some upgrades will happen in the near future. On top of the Octamic, another classic, the Yamaha TX81Z 4-operator FM tone generator. Very well known for lately bass of course, but with a programmer you can get lots of other great and useful sounds out of it. A very nice synth to use as a contrast against my analog PolyBrute and MS-20. And in the corner, my very well used Mackie analog mixer. It's basically a fancy patch bay nowadays. I use it if I want to connect something to the speakers that doesn't have to go to my interface basically. For the rest, it's convenient to have it, but it's not really seeing that much use. A boring but very useful utility on the floor here, an automatic air filter to keep the air quality in the studio under control. Then on the other side, a temporary guest in my studio. I'm going to make a video about this, the Roland D-20. It's absolutely not a D50, but I still going to accept the challenge and try to get some interesting and useful sounds out of it. I already figured out how to program it, so now it's a matter of creating some interesting patches, create a track with it and do a video about the whole process. Then on top of the case, my old Sony mini disc recorder, which once was my main way of recording tracks. And on top of that, the Roland MC-303, which is my first synthesizer. I made a video about that a couple of months ago, so if you haven't seen that yet, maybe check it out. And actually I should immediately correct myself here, because this SA-1 is my first synthesizer. The MC-303 is my first, between quotes, professional synthesizer. And that completes the studio tour. If you have any questions about the equipment or how I use it, feel free to ask. I love to talk about this and I can do it for ages. And that's it again for today. If you want more like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to be notified as soon as a new video goes online, click the bell button. Bye bye!